Most car crashes end with clear answers, but some don't. Some are so strange, violent, or confusing that they leave behind more fear than closure. In this video, we'll look at 5 real car crash deaths that stand out, not just because of how they happened, but because of what was left behind. Twisted metal, missing time, and scenes that still haunt investigators. This is part 7 of the most disturbing car crash deaths ever recorded. It was March 16, 2017 in New York City. Amanda Miner had just turned 21. She was home in Williamsburg, Brooklyn for spring break from Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, where she was studying to become a social worker. Amanda loved helping people. She was focused, kind, and passionate about making a difference. That day was supposed to be a celebration. She saw the Broadway show Wicked with family and had dinner afterward. Later that night, she went out with friends to celebrate in Manhattan, but Amanda never made it back home. At around 3:15 a.m., Amanda got into a gray 2013 Infiniti G37. Driving the car was 26-year-old Stephen Hoyt, an off-duty NYPD traffic enforcement agent. In the passenger seat was 24-year-old Michael Camacho, also an off-duty NYPD traffic agent. Amanda sat in the back seat. Hoyt had been drinking. Reports later showed he had at least 8 shots of vodka and 2 mixed drinks. His blood alcohol level was measured at 0.12, well over the legal limit of 0.08. On top of that, he was driving at a dangerous speed, about 111 miles per hour on the Williamsburg Bridge, where the limit is only 35 miles per hour. He lost control of the car. As they crossed from Manhattan to Brooklyn, the Infiniti slammed into a divider, then hit a support pillar. The crash was so violent that it tore the car in half. Amanda, who wasn't wearing a seatbelt, was thrown from the vehicle. The injuries were severe, and she was declared dead at the scene. A passing driver caught the aftermath on video. The car was a twisted wreck. Part of it rolled up into a ball. Emergency crews arrived quickly. Both Hoyt and Camacho were taken to Bellevue Hospital with minor injuries, but Amanda was gone. Amanda had spent her birthday surrounded by loved ones. Now, just hours later, her family was in shock. Her mother, Virginia Cabrera Miner, stood outside their home in Brooklyn. She cried as she said, "She's gone. She was a wonderful girl, my youngest. We just celebrated her birthday, and now I'll never see her graduate." Amanda was deeply involved in helping others. She volunteered to support people without homes and studied anthropology and sociology. Her professor, David Schulman, described her as someone who radiated niceness. She was on track to graduate in 2018. Her older sister, Linda Miner, spoke later in court. "I am completely heartbroken. I no longer have a sister. I just want to be with my sister." Hoyt had told police at the scene he'd only had 2 drinks. But prosecutors later confirmed he'd had much more. He was arrested and suspended from his job. The charges included reckless driving that resulted in a person's death. Eventually, Hoyt pleaded guilty to second-degree manslaughter and vehicular manslaughter. This avoided a full trial, and he received a sentence of 4 to 12 years in prison. In court, Hoyt said, "I'm very sorry. I hope her family can forgive me. We were celebrating her birthday, and it was a traffic accident." But Amanda's family disagreed. Her sister said Amanda was not celebrating with him. She had trusted him to drive her home. Amanda's father, Jeffrey Miner, held a photo of her in court. He asked Hoyt to carry forward the positive energy Amanda had shared with others. Her mother cried as she said, "Every day is a struggle. I'll never hear her voice again." Hoyt's mother, Jeanette, said he was a good son and father to his 5-year-old daughter. She claimed he wasn't a heavy drinker and didn't know what happened that night. Before working for the city, Hoyt had worked as a mechanic and in a grocery store. His social media showed photos of the same gray Infiniti involved in the crash. His lawyer said this was a tragedy for both families, but the judge was clear. Judge Melissa Jackson told Hoyt, "You will serve time, but your punishment will also be living with what you did. That will stay with you forever." Amanda's life ended just as it was beginning, one day after her 21st birthday, because of someone else's careless decision. It was a Sunday night in March 2019 in Odessa, Ukraine. 33-year-old Victoria Kravchenko, a mother of 2, was sitting in the passenger seat of a BMW X6. Behind the wheel was 22-year-old Shamil Gadzhiev. They were speeding through the city streets, reportedly racing side by side with a Porsche. No one knew that this ride would be Victoria's last. Victoria wasn't just a regular Odessa resident. She was the daughter of Valery Kravchenko, a businessman who had made headlines in the late 1980s, not for his work, but for a surprising family discovery. That discovery linked the Kravchenko family to Hollywood legend Sylvester Stallone. It all began when Sylvester's mother, Jackie Stallone, became interested in tracing her family roots back in the Soviet Union, with support from Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet leader. Her search gained momentum. Gorbachev even assigned the KGB to help her look into her ancestry. What they found was unexpected. Jackie's grandmother, Rose Lebofish, had arrived in the United States in 1888. Her records showed she was closely related to a woman named Yevdokia, who turned out to be Victoria Kravchenko's great-grandmother. This meant the Stallones and Kravchenkos were distant cousins, family members separated by migration and time. Jackie traveled to Odessa and was brought to a KGB office where she met Valerie for the first time. She reportedly greeted him calmly and said, "Hello, Valerie, how are you? It looks like you are the only living relation of our family." At first, Valerie thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. Back then, he had already been breaking new ground, starting the first privately owned gas station in the Soviet Union. Soon after, Valerie introduced Jackie to his daughter, Victoria. She was still young at the time, but full of energy and confidence. Over the years, Victoria became a successful businesswoman and a mother of two. She worked as a director in one of her father's companies and never forgot the meeting with Jackie. In a 2009 interview, Victoria said she was shocked to learn she was related to Sylvester Stallone. She even remembered noticing a resemblance between her father and Stallone, especially in the eyes. At the time, her friends didn't believe her, but the story was true. She also recalled how down-to-earth Jackie Stallone had been. She said, "Before she came, I thought she would be like any American, with no sense of humor. But she gave me travel tips and shopping advice, and we chatted like girlfriends. She was energetic and active, even at her age." That strange link between Ukraine and Hollywood remained mostly quiet. But in March 2019, that connection came to an abrupt and tragic end. That night, the BMW that Victoria was in crashed into a parked Hyundai Sonata. The car spun out of control and hit a utility pole carrying high-voltage wires. The impact caused a large explosion. The car caught fire almost instantly. Victoria and Shamil were trapped inside and didn't make it out. By the time emergency crews arrived, it was too late. The crash was caught on nearby security cameras. Investigators later reviewed the footage, which showed the exact moment the vehicle lost control. In just a few seconds, everything was gone. Shamil was the younger brother of a well-known boxer named Ramil Gadzhiev. Victoria, on the other hand, had built her life around business and family. Despite their very different paths, both lives ended the same night. News spread quickly across Ukraine. It wasn't just the crash that shocked people. It was the identity of the woman who died. Victoria's story and her connection to Sylvester Stallone made headlines again. Years earlier, Stallone had said he was curious about his Russian roots and wanted to visit Odessa someday. Believed his character and personality came more from his mother's side than his Italian father. Now, the same city that had given his mother answers had also taken a family member. Victoria was proud of who she was, proud of her roots, and proud of what she had achieved. She had no way of knowing that a single drive through the city would be her last. There was no warning, no goodbye. Just a fast car, one wrong turn, and silent. It was June 28, 2025. A Saturday afternoon in Kaufman County, Texas. Traffic along Interstate 20 had started to back up after an earlier incident in the eastbound lanes. Around 2:40 p.m., the McKellar family was heading home to Fort Worth after a short trip to East Texas. Inside their Ford F-150 were 52-year-old Zabar McKellar, his wife, 45-year-old Krishan, their 15-year-old son Kason, 20-year-old daughter Evan, and the children's grandfather, 79-year-old Billy McKellar. It had been an ordinary day until it suddenly turned into a nightmare. At the same time, a semi-truck driven by 27-year-old Alexis Osmani Gonzalez Campagnoni from Kissimmee, Florida, was also traveling eastbound. He was working for a company called Hope Trans LLC. According to investigators, Gonzalez Campagnoni failed to notice the stopped traffic ahead of him. He later admitted that he had fallen asleep while driving. The affidavit confirmed he never pressed the brakes. He was going around 75 miles per hour, the posted speed limit, when his truck crashed into the back of the McKellar's vehicle. The impact crushed their truck and caused a chain reaction. The semi hit two other 18-wheelers and several other cars, including a gray Jeep Compass. Emergency crews, firefighters, and police rushed to the scene. It was declared a mass casualty event. The McKellar family didn't survive. Zabar, Krishan, Kason, and Billy were all pronounced dead at the scene. The only survivor was 20-year-old Evan, who suffered critical injuries. She was airlifted to Parkland Hospital in Dallas and placed in the ICU. One of her feet had to be amputated. Though she lived, her recovery, both physical and emotional, will be long and difficult. Another person, 49-year-old Nicole Gregory of Dallas, was also killed. She had been driving the Jeep Compass that got caught in the crash. In total, 5 people lost their lives, and Evan remains in the hospital. Interstate 20 was shut down for several hours as investigators tried to understand what had happened. Gonzalez Campagnoni was arrested and charged with 5 counts of manslaughter and 1 count of aggravated assault. He is being held in the Kaufman County Jail. The tragedy left a deep impact, not just because of the number of people lost, but because it was an entire family. 3 generations gone in seconds. Pastor Rodney McIntosh from Christ the Risen King Church in Fort Worth described himself as an adopted son of the family. He said through tears, "I don't know how you make sense of moments like these." Zabar and Krishan were seen as devoted parents. Zabar was known for being quiet and strong. Krishan, also called Sean, was energetic and caring. Their son Kaysen was a student at North Crowley High School and a proud football player who had recently helped lead his team to a championship. Evan is a college student described as strong and intelligent. Billy McKellar had deep ties to East Texas. That day he had just come from a funeral in Tyler. A close friend, Von D. Mosley, said they had known each other since high school and served in the military together. "We were like two peas in a pod," Mosley said. "I'm grateful for the time I had with him." The crash has devastated the community. Evan's grandmother, Felicia Luster, asked for privacy and continued prayers, saying, "There was a survivor. My granddaughter. We're praying for a full recovery." Attorney John Nohanek, representing the family, said they're working to find out what happened inside the truck. Hope Trans LLC, the trucking company, had passed violations, including issues with drivers going over allowed hours. Governor Greg Abbott has asked the Department of Public Safety to investigate further. The NTSB also launched its own investigation, and early reports confirmed that the driver didn't brake at all. Legal teams are now collecting data and building a case. Nohanek said the fight won't be easy, but they're ready. A GoFundMe page has been set up to help Evan with medical expenses and funeral costs. Meanwhile, Crowley High School is planning a vigil in Kaysen's memory. The crash didn't just claim lives. It left behind a broken community, and one young woman who now has to carry it all alone. It was the early morning of January 12, 2025 in Castleford, West Yorkshire. The temperature had dropped to -5 degrees Celsius, and the roads were covered in ice. 18-year-old Taylor Lupton was riding as a passenger in a white Volkswagen Golf. It was around 6:20 a.m. when something went terribly wrong. Taylor lived in nearby Pontefract and had recently become a father. He was known for being full of energy, funny, and kind. Friends called him Crazy Sweet, and his family said he could light up any room. That morning, he was in the car with two 21-year-olds, one man and one woman. The car was driving down Weldon Road, a street locals say has always been dangerous. After crossing a junction, witnesses said the vehicle suddenly lost control. It swerved off the road, hit a pavement, broke through a wire fence, and crashed into heavy bushes. Then it slid down a steep slope and landed inside an oxidation tank at the Welldale Sewage Works. At the time, the tank was nearly empty, but it was deep enough to partly hide the car. When emergency crews arrived, they found the car at the bottom of the tank. It was badly damaged. One of the doors had been thrown open, and the windows were shattered. Taylor's body was found just a few yards away from the car. Rescue workers quickly pulled out the two other passengers and rushed them to the hospital. Later, both were arrested for suspected involvement in unsafe driving that may have led to Taylor's death. One local man said, "It was awful. The car was so far down you couldn't see it from the road. It must have been because of the ice." Another man, 66-year-old Richard Iverson, said he had lived in the area his whole life and had seen many crashes there. "The bridge has always been dangerous," he said. He also remembered seeing a car plate on the footpath that morning and first thinking it was just from a break-in. Soon after the crash, people began posting tributes to Taylor. His girlfriend, Megan Carswell, wrote, "You were my world. You made me better. I love you so much. I wish this wasn't real. I'll carry you in my heart forever." Kira Reed shared, "Rest in peace, Taylor Lupton, you crazy sweet soul. Just hours before, you were smiling, dancing, and happy. I'll miss you forever." Courtney Leake added, "You were amazing, Tay. Never a dull moment. We love you." Maggie Smith wrote, "The world is unfair. You had so much ahead. You really did light up every room." At the crash site, flowers, candles, and handwritten notes were left. One read, "To my lovely great-grandson Taylor, taken too soon. Great-grandma Dot." Another said, "Can't believe this, Tay. Love you so much. Mom and Dad." His siblings wrote, "Gonna miss you, big brother. Makajan Tisha." A girl named Megs added, "I'm heartbroken. You'll always be in my heart. I wish we had more time." Others also shared their thoughts. "You had so much life to live. Love you forever, Taylor." Sammy, and from a classmate, "You always made us laugh. Thanks for being there." Aaron. Taylor's family later described him as a loving father, a wonderful son, and a kind friend. A fundraiser was set up to help with funeral expenses. It called him a friend to everyone and the best dad to his daughter. Taylor passed away before his daughter's first birthday. Police confirmed they arrived and found the vehicle in a ditch inside the treatment site. Taylor was pronounced dead at the scene. The other two passengers were arrested at the hospital. The major collision inquiry team is still investigating the crash. They believe icy roads and poor visibility could have played a role. Locals also mentioned the lack of warning signs near the bridge. Photos from the scene showed the car wrecked in the empty tank with a trail of damage leading down the slope. What exactly caused the crash is still being investigated. But one thing is certain: Taylor Lupton, a young father and friend to many, is no longer here. It was July 19, 2025, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. News spread that Prince Al-Walid bin Khalid bin Talal Al Saud, known to many as the Sleeping Prince, had passed away. He was 36 years old and had spent the last 20 years in a coma. His story wasn't just about a prince. Across Saudi Arabia and beyond, people had followed his condition for 2 decades, hoping for a miracle, grieving quietly and waiting for any small sign of change. To understand how this all began, we have to go back to 2005. Prince Al-Walid was born on April 18, 1989. He was the first son of Prince Khalid bin Talal and Princess Al-Jazi bint Saud. His father was part of the royal family and the brother of billionaire Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. His grandfather, Prince Talal, was one of the sons of King Abdulaziz, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia. Coming from such a powerful bloodline, Al-Walid was expected to take on great responsibilities in the future. He was raised to follow a strict path. At 15, he began training at a military academy in London. But soon after, something unexpected happened that changed everything. In 2005, while still in the United Kingdom, Prince Al-Walid was in a serious car crash. The impact left him with heavy brain injuries and other internal damage. Doctors in London worked quickly to stabilize him, and he was flown back to Saudi Arabia. He was then admitted to King Abdulaziz Medical City in Riyadh. He never woke up again. From that moment on, the prince was kept alive using machines. He relied on a ventilator and feeding tube. Most doctors agreed that recovery was very unlikely. 10 years later, in 2015, medical staff advised his father to consider ending life support. But Prince Khalid refused. He stayed beside his son every day, believing one day he might come back. He shared photos online, showing himself holding his son's hand or sitting quietly by his bedside. He decorated the room for special events like Ramadan, Eid, and Saudi National Day. Over the years, many family members, friends, and religious leaders visited Al-Walid. His younger brothers, Saud and Mohammed, were often there. They talked to him, shared family updates, and prayed for even the slightest sign of change. And for a moment, there was one. In 2020, a video of the prince spread across the internet. In it, he appeared to move his fingers when a woman called his name. At one point, he even raised his hand. Many saw this as a sign of hope, but doctors later said these were reflexes, not true awareness. He remained in what is known as a vegetative state. Still, the public gave him a name, the Sleeping Prince. His story became well known, especially in the Arab world. People shared old videos of him in uniform and kept up with updates from his father. His case made many think about life support, the meaning of hope, and how long someone should wait. Through it all, his father never left his side. On July 19, 2025, after 20 years in the same hospital room, Prince Al-Walid passed away. Prince Khalid shared the news on X, formerly Twitter, posting a black and white photo of his son along with a message asking for prayers and strength from God. Funeral prayers were held the next day at Imam Turki bin Abdullah Mosque in Riyadh, and the public was invited to pay their respects at Al Fakhariya Palace. No official reason was given for why support was stopped. Some believe his condition had worsened. Others think the family had finally made the decision to let go, but nothing was confirmed. After the news broke, people across the world paid tribute. The Sleeping Prince hashtag began trending again. Messages poured in, remembering the long journey and the love that surrounded him. He was only 15 when everything changed. For 2 decades, he remained in the same room, held by the quiet love of those who never gave up on him. Now that chapter has come to an end. The Sleeping Prince is finally at rest.